Paranormal in Pennsylvania may discuss topics such as suicide, murder, and other potentially upsetting things. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, and welcome to Paranormal in Pennsylvania,
where we discuss history and hauntings.
Today's story takes us to one of the most haunted towns in Pennsylvania, Gettysburg. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Erica.
Let's get into it. So Gettysburg, we love Gettysburg.
Yes, I really do want to visit again. I know that we've been saying this since season 1, and it's incredible that we're at season 5 and we still have not been. But I really do want to go back.
We have no excuse because it's really not that far.
It's not. And we also pass it every time
that
we're going back home.
Yeah.
So,
fun fact, I've probably said this on an episode before. I actually took my license test in Gettysburg.
I remember you saying that. I do.
Yeah. Because we couldn't get an appointment anywhere else. And my dad was like, well, by the time we drive there, you'll be ready. And
That's
he was right.
Fair point. Yeah.
And it was super easy.
Yeah.
So
I bet. Honestly, I remember getting my permit and my dad just being like, all right, and like tossing me the keys. And I was like, what are we doing? Homie.
It's scary. I mean, it's scary to start driving.
It is. Be careful, kids.
Yeah. Be safe out there. But I do love Gettysburg and I do want to go back. I mean, we've had Jenny Wade, we've had Devil's Den.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of locations. And today we're talking about the National Cemetery there. This is, of course, more of a morbid one, although Devil's Den's pretty morbid. So
yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So for the history, those that might not know, the Battle of Gettysburg raged from July 1st to 3rd, 1863. And this was part of the American Civil War. It's known to be an infamously bloody battle. That's why there's so many hauntings in Gettysburg. And you can hear more in our Little Round Top and Devil's Den about the actual battle itself. This is going to be more about the cemetery than the battle. The average age of a soldier was actually 19.
That's so young.
Yeah. That is very young. And I guess life expectancy was really different in the 1860s, but 19 still feels young. And according to unofficial records, the youngest soldier was 12 years old.
I don't know. I obviously have no clue what the circumstances are, but I cannot imagine being a parent and either my child has to go or I've sent them out at 12 years old.
Right. Or they run away and decide to go. Which
would also be terrifying, yeah. Might not even have been the parents.
Yeah, I cannot imagine. I mean, clearly this was a terrible time, tearing apart the nation, but wow, 12.
Right, and it's funny because, obviously I also can't imagine being 12 and being in, you know what I'm saying?
The Civil War, yeah. Yeah. So the cemetery was built to accommodate all of the deaths that occurred as part of the battle, and specifically the Union troops. Of course, we weren't going to bury the Confederate troops in this cemetery.
Right.
And it's not within Gettysburg proper. It's a little bit outside of Gettysburg.
I vaguely remember going there with my dad and I could be wrong because it was so long ago, but it's just so vast.
Yeah.
Like it's just so empty and vast.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary.
It's harrowing to think of the lives there because it's not just from the Civil War. It's not even, I should say, just from the Battle of Gettysburg. There's Battle of Gettysburg, of course, then Civil War, but there's also veterans from other eras that are buried there, which I didn't actually know. I thought that it was very specific to the Civil War. The cemetery has 979 unknown soldiers buried there, as well as 3,500 from the Civil War. So that's why it's vast. I mean, if you think of it, that's 4,400 graves just from the Civil War and then unknown.
Right. I don't mean to take the emotion out of it when I ask this question, but I'm genuinely curious as to, like, what are the average ages of the unknown soldiers? Because going off of what you said of, like, a 12-year-old running away, how many instances did that happen?
I don't know.
Where people just then didn't know where their child was.
Yeah. That, I don't know, since we don't know who they are.
Right. And of course, even nowadays, it might be like, okay, these are the average ages of, like, the people that were that are unknown. But back then, of course, that was just not a thing.
Right, but that's a good point, because I would imagine, I mean, I'm no war expert, but I would imagine a 19-year-old is going to hold up a lot better than a 12-year-old in battle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a good point. And it could be, you know, people that were disfigured and they couldn't identify. It's not like they were using dental records and stuff like we have nowadays.
Yeah.
No DNA identification.
No.
Especially when you have 3,500 bodies. That's a lot.
Yeah.
The veterans from other wars included here include the Spanish-American War, World War I, and then even more additional conflicts, but those are the two big ones. The cemetery also holds graves of wives and children of veterans.
I did know that, and I thought that was really nice because, of course, like as a family, you likely want to be buried as a family.
Yeah.
So.
And what an honor, you know?
Yes, that was the thing when you had said that, you know, veterans from other wars were included here. It really must be an honor.
What an important part of history. Because, of course, the Civil War, the Battle of Gettysburg, is significant. But we haven't even gotten into the Gettysburg Address.
Oh my God. You just unlocked a whole memory. In 5th grade, I was like chosen to recite the Gettysburg Address at our like local fire station. And I'm just remembering this now.
Do it now.
Oh, okay. Well, it starts with 7 years ago, but I don't remember anything else after that.
Yeah. I mean, that was a while ago. So
I was
that's
10.
Funny. Yeah. Yeah. And so the Gettysburg Address was given by President Lincoln. I think pretty much everybody knows that. I should say many people know that. We do have some international listeners, though, so they might not know. And Lincoln was infamous as the president during the Civil War, who helped with emancipation of the slaves, etc. And that's all I'm going to go into for history. It's pretty brief, but with Gettysburg, you could really dive down a rabbit hole because there's so much that happens there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like every individual location we talk about has a different history.
Right. So there is tons of history here, and highly recommend digging more into it. But it's still a cemetery now, and you can still go visit it.
Yeah.
It's no surprise that a cemetery is haunted, especially one that was part of such a bloody battle. So, getting into the hauntings, one that we see a lot is visitors see orbs of light floating. And they're not just floating stationary, they seem to almost be bouncing from grave to grave.
Oh, that's kind of interesting.
And I read a lot of theories that these are soldiers that were here, maybe either looking for their own grave or, you know, confused. But I wonder if it's the loved ones.
I immediately thought about the families of like maybe someone is looking for their child or someone's looking for their parent, you know?
Yeah, or just a spirit going about their day visiting loved ones if they don't know that they've passed.
Right. Yeah.
But I think that could be really beautiful to see. I'm just imagining all of these orbs of light like in the cemetery. Like what a precious thought. If it's like loved ones.
I agree. And even if it is, you know, a soldier, maybe these soldiers' spirits are just visiting each grave. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, just paying their respects to each one, even if they didn't know them, which is also a really nice thought.
That's true. Or it's like, who's new here? You know,
yes.
If you've been around since the Civil War, World War I is years after your death.
Right.
Visitors also report full body apparitions happening here. And this can be anything from seeing people marching through the cemetery to seeing people hiding amongst the tree line. And I think it's interesting because so much of Gettysburg was a battlefield that it's almost like anywhere you look, soldiers could be hiding.
Yeah, and that's kind of an interesting haunting because I think if I was there, I would assume it might have been like people playing around if they're hiding behind trees. And depending on their dress, maybe even like period actors.
Yeah.
Rather than it being a paranormal thing.
That's what I would think too. I would definitely think reenactors first. And I wonder what would happen if you tried to engage with these spirits. It didn't really say that anyone has tried, but just that they see them from a distance. So they don't really get the opportunity. But I do wonder if you went up to them and said something, would they disappear? Would they talk back to you, you know.
Right. Do you remember that episode that we talked about a battlefield where someone actually had bullets given to them?
Yeah, it was either Devil's Den or Little Round Top.
Okay.
It was Gettysburg.
That's what I thought. I wonder if this is sort of a similar thing where no one happens to have gone up to them yet, but maybe you could and interact with them a little bit.
I wonder, it's like you see them and you just start running.
Yeah.
We're just at this cemetery. Everybody else is paying their respects. We just start booking it.
Right.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, so respectful.
Yeah. Visitors also report some auditory hauntings that are happening here. And those are things typical of battlefields, like the sound of gunfire, cannon booms, and screaming. And this happens when reenactments are not going on, which is key to say, because there are a lot of reenactments in Gettysburg. And of course, they have like the fake bullets and stuff. So that's not a haunting. That's just reality.
Right.
But this is not associated with any reenactments. Another auditory haunting that people hear a lot is called the weeping woman. And this is the sound of a woman sobbing that can be heard throughout the cemetery. So it's not even specific to one grave. And because it's not specific to one grave, many people think that she was actually a Civil War nurse versus someone's loved one.
That makes sense. I was going to say, okay, this is like way out there, but I almost thought like multiple loved ones. Like there's multiple people weeping.
That could be.
Multiple spirits weeping. Now, I don't think that's accurate. That was just like something that popped into my head. I think the nurse idea makes so much more sense.
I mean, it could be both though, because if it is happening so ubiquitously, a Civil War nurse, yeah, she might be crying for all the Civil War soldiers, but she might be less likely to cry for a World War I soldier. But if the spirit of the World War I soldiers' family's there, you know, I think it could compound a bit.
Yeah.
I think it would make sense weeping in general in a cemetery.
Yeah, I think if I heard this one would make me emotional.
I think so too. I just imagine you're standing there alone or like even with me and David and we just hear someone sobbing.
Yeah.
That would be very saddening.
Yes, definitely.
And obviously you're in a cemetery already. Like it's already emotional.
Right.
But the idea that someone is there in their afterlife still crying is sad to me.
Yes.
There is a first-hand account of one visitor who visited the grave of a Vietnam vet, and I'm going to read it firsthand. Start quote. I had just stepped foot onto the cemetery grounds when my entire body was hit with what felt like an electric shock. The hairs on my arms and neck stood on end, and my entire body went cold, like a cold sweat. Mind you, it was the middle of summer. I felt a chilly air on my neck and heard a deep, raspy sigh. I quickly spun around to see who the was behind me, and wouldn't you know, no one. I've never paid my respects so quickly and got the out of somewhere so fast. End quote.
Yeah, the end sentiments, I mean, that makes sense. I would do the same.
Right. But I think it's interesting because there's so many environmental aspects here. It's not like it's one spirit specifically touching you.
Yeah.
It's like the electricity feeling, the chills, stuff like that. It's almost like a visceral reaction.
And so this person was paying their respects to one person, assumedly. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, to a Vietnam vet.
I almost wonder if it was the spirit of that vet.
It could be. It could be, but it almost sounds like it's negative feelings, you know?
Well, and so this is what I was thinking, you know, I don't know, again, my knowledge in this is so tiny, but I'm wondering if, like, they're trying to get this person's attention so hard that they end up causing all of these different things, and really what they're trying to do is just, like, desperately connect with this person somehow.
That's true. Like, oh, I'm here, and it's like lightning bolt and chilly air, and the person's like, whoa, this is overwhelming, and the spirit's like, no, I just want to say hi. That could be.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like someone very significant and the ghost becomes really activated, I could see it throwing a lot of energy out there.
Yeah, because then even if it's like, you know, what if that spirit's getting anxious? Like they're realizing that nothing's working, and so they're like, their energy might be negative, but it might not be negative in the way that we think of negative. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, and then how sad because the person leaves so quickly.
Okay, yeah, that part's a little sad. I didn't really think of that, but yeah.
The other thing I was thinking is, and I don't know anything about this person other than they went to visit a Vietnam vet. So I'm guessing that they had good intentions, but I'm wondering if they didn't have pure intentions and the other spirits in the cemetery felt that and were like, no, get out of here. The other thought that I had is I wonder if they were Southern and the Civil War Union soldiers are like, you're a Southerner, get out of here.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, because, you made a point of in the beginning saying that it was Union soldiers buried there.
Yeah.
So that's a good theory.
And, they died in this battle. So if they still harbor anger, I don't think anyone would blame them.
Oh, yeah, right. Of course not.
Yeah. Another thing that people report is issues with technology, which we've actually seen at almost every Gettysburg location. We really saw that at Devil's Den with people's cameras just completely turning off. And here they report that batteries die quickly, things malfunction, so they can't really get any photographs. When I've been there, I didn't note anything like that happening to me personally, but there's so many factors that play into how hauntings can affect you. Intention is definitely one of them. So if you're there for pure historical intention, maybe the ghosts are like less likely to interact with you negatively.
And as you said that this has happened in like multiple Gettysburg locations, the other thing that I just thought of was it might not even be that they don't want to be captured. What if they're like seeing this unknown piece of technology, thinking that it's like an advanced piece of technology from the enemy?
That's true.
And are just like, no, shut it down.
It's just fear.
Yeah.
That could be too. Or my other thought is they know what it is and they just don't want to be bothered. They just want to literally rest in peace.
Also true, especially because it's a cemetery.
Right. Which is completely fair.
Yes.
The final report is another environmental type thing. And it's really interesting to me because I don't know much about weather. But apparently a dense fog will roll in at certain times. And it can be so dense that it's challenging to find your way out of the cemetery.
Huh.
So I don't know if this is something to do with like the rolling hills of the battlefield or the surrounding area or like dew point, whatever. But that significant of fog seems almost paranormal to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot for someone to not be able to find their way out of the cemetery, which would absolutely happen to me because I don't keep track of where I'm going. So if I can't see the exit, then yeah, I'm bound to get lost. And that just seems so intense. I know that some fogs can cause that, obviously. I'm not saying that that doesn't happen with real fog, but for it to kind of like just, it sounds like it just kind of rolls in.
Yeah.
Which I don't really know if it's rolling in at random times, how that would be attributed to an atmospheric thing.
Right, because it's not like it's only happening before a thunderstorm or like when it's cloudy out. It seems like it happens whenever, and it's just so intense. But I also wonder why this haunting, because most of the other hauntings almost seem like they want to get people out of there.
Oh, yeah, true.
This keeps people in, unless it's just generally spooky.
Which, yeah, I mean, maybe it's like they're rolling it in hopes of scaring someone, so when it rolls out, the person just leaves automatically.
That's true. I was also thinking two other theories. One, they're still playing the battle in their head and they want cover. Or two, they don't want the person to be able to read the headstones for whatever reason.
Oh, yeah. What I was thinking is if the person is trying to keep someone in, maybe this particular spirit is negative. Is the other thing I was thinking was, maybe they're like, well, if I'm not getting out of here, neither are you.
That's true. That's true. And I think it's really easy when we are talking about, a cemetery with people that gave their lives for the country. It's easy to blanket assume that everyone's good. But that is never the case. With 4,400 people, there's bound to be some negative people in there. So that could be the case as well.
Yeah.
So knowing the hauntings, would you go?
Yeah, I would. I'm smiling because, again, we keep saying that we're going to go to Gettysburg and then just not. But yes, I definitely would. And I wouldn't want to be here too long at night. For sure. I don't think I'd want to be here too long at night. I would want to stay long enough that we were able to see the fog. I think that would help.
Yeah.
Kind of determine what it is. So I want to be here for a long time, but I don't want to be here overnight.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I would love to go. I would love to do an investigation. And honestly, I would even do an overnight investigation. But the rules here are so strict because it is a cemetery.
Right.
So.
And a delicate one at that.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be disrespectful. But I do think you could have a really, really cool paranormal investigation here.
Yes, definitely.
And going for the history itself, of course, is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. There's just so much there.
Yeah. Maybe in 2050, we'll make it back to Gettysburg. But let us know what you think of the history and hauntings of the National Cemetery in Gettysburg. Or if you have anything to add, I'm sure there's tons more hauntings out there. You can follow us on social media at Paranormal in Pennsylvania for behind-the-scenes content. And if there's somewhere that you want us to cover, reach out to us on socials or send us an email. Tune in next Thursday to see what history and hauntings we discuss next. Stay spooky, my friends.